Hi, good morning everybody. My name is Vance Row. I am a corporal with the Ocean City Police Department. Much like many of you, I actually started in the summer times coming down to Ocean City and kind of living and working here as a seasonal job kind of in between school years, and it's probably where a lot of you are. I just ended up not really going back to where home is, which is the Baltimore area, and I've made a career down here. Now, as for me, in the summertime, I work in our patrol division. I do what you probably think a typical police officer does, and I work on the south end of the boardwalk. I work 5 at night till 3 in the morning. In the wintertime, I do a little something different. I work with our applicant testing. I do polygraphs for all of our applicants, including any tests needed from our detectives and things like that. Kind of a change of pace from summer to winter for me. In addition to that, I work with our public affairs office, and part of that is teaching this class on a yearly basis. For any of your coworkers that are not able to be here today, this is being videotaped, so we can make that available to you, to them, should they need to see it and they just, for whatever reason, their schedule couldn't accommodate it today. So here goes. This takes us right around an hour. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. It kind of depends on what we get talking about, depends on the amount of questions that I get and things like that. So what this is RAAM training for retailers and servers. What RAAM is reducing the availability of alcohol to minors, keeping alcohol out of the hands of people that should not have it. Overview, aerial shot of Ocean City. I feel like I gotta give you a little bit of background. Ocean City is a resort town. A lot of people are coming here for vacation. A lot of times vacation equates to alcohol. People are looking to blow some steam off. What we are doing today is we are making sure that we are going through practices in order to make sure that the people that should have alcohol do, and keep it out of the hands of the people that shouldn't have it. And what I mean by that is just the age barrier of 21. We want to make sure that people are 21 that are actually getting alcohol. Ocean City, like I said before, resort town, very small geographically an area, but everybody wants to come to the beach. And we attract from not just the state of Maryland, but of course all the states that border us, and quite other distances as well. I started coming here when I was probably 2 or 3 years old. I would come on the weekends, I would come during the summers. It just, this is what we did. This is what I grew up around. I spent a lot of time on the Ocean City Boardwalk. I spent a lot of time on the downtown beaches when I was a kid. This is just what I've known in my summertime. This has just become like a tradition to me. I'm glad that I was able to actually work here on a year-round basis. What you're going to walk away with from actually going through this class is a better understanding of what your responsibility is as far as limiting alcohol to the people that shouldn't have it. I'm going to go over what you should be looking for as you look at IDs, as you scan over them, and just kind of a checklist of things that should be going through your mind every time somebody puts an ID in your hands. And then at the end, we'll go over some crime prevention, we'll go over some homeland security tips, things that maybe you have not thought about, but just because of the environment that you're in, I want to pass along to you. First of all, the RAAM program is something that is now 20 years old. This is something that was born in the summer of 1995 through some very tragic events. What we started to see is, I believe there were 6 deaths that summer, and every single one of them had a couple things in common. The first one is the people that were involved in these tragic events tended to be underage, tended to be people that were under 21. It also tended to be that they were just incredibly intoxicated. So, trying to be a little proactive, we decided to come up with a program that, listen, how do we make this not occur? How do we keep this kind of under wraps? And you got to understand, it's not just us that's doing this. It's not just the police department. It's kind of us interacting. It's kind of us out in the community. If we can impart some of this information to you, you help us. And the reason for that, honestly, nobody comes to me to buy a six-pack. Nobody is coming to me and ordering a beer or ordering a mixed drink or anything like that. It's just not my business. But they are going to come to you. And if you know what to look for, and if you know just some suggested practices and things like that, you're going to be a little more better informed to handle anything that comes your way. I kind of went over the tragic events, but if you are the people that restrict the access, don't allow alcohol to get into the wrong hands, you're going to limit tragic events, whether you realize that or not. The other part of this becomes liability concerns. There are liability issues not just with you personally, but also with your business. If you were to make a sale to somebody that is under 21, for whatever reason, you don't ID them, or you serve somebody like that, there are going to be sanctions that come to your business. There are going to be sanctions that come to you personally. And I don't know about you, but I do not have up to $1,000 that's just laying around in order to pay a fine. I don't think you do either. So what I'm saying is, let's just make sure that we're doing the same thing every single time in order to make sure that we're doing what we need to do. As far as business sanctions, what happens is when there is a violation, that goes before the Board of Commissioners, and alcohol sales can get suspended. If alcohol sales got suspended in any of your businesses for one day, even one day, you're talking about thousands of dollars. It's a huge hit. Let's just not have that happen. Let's just make sure it doesn't. That's why we go through this. The first part of this is we see who we're going to ask for ID. Every business is going to be a little different. But what I'm telling you is you need to have some sort of policy. You need to have something in the back of your mind of, hey, who are we going to ID? Is it everybody that's under 30? Is it anybody that's under 35? Are you just going to make everybody present an ID? Whatever it is, make a rule, stick to that rule. You are going to, at times, get into a confrontation. And I don't even want to portray it as you're going to be involved in a confrontation. Somebody is going to get nasty with you. What I want you to do is I want you to remain professional. If you need another person, ask for another person to come help you. If you need the police to come, certainly, call us, we'll come. Generally, people are going to get nasty because A, people do not like to get challenged. People do not like to be told, hey, this is not right. But if somebody makes a scene, and if somebody is loud enough, they think you might just roll over. And you may just say, listen, man, I'll do whatever you want. Here, just shut up. So you got to keep your composure. You got to remain professional. You're the one that does this every day. It's going to happen to you. I just want you to be prepared for it. You have an absolute right to refuse. If you're not comfortable with that person and them verifying who they are, their identity, their age, you can just say no. And what I will say to you is, this has to be supported inside of your management. And you know, maybe you can even say, look, I don't feel comfortable with this. You can get a manager involved, you get another server involved. That's certainly okay. But you need to understand that this is not a right, this is not a privilege to drink alcohol. People have the ability to because they have turned 21, but they have to certainly prove who they are to you for you to be able to serve to them. Some tactics. You're going to ask for an ID. I'm asking for people to take it out of their purse. I'm asking for people to take it out of their wallet. And what I mean by that is, I don't want to view somebody's ID through clear plastic. I don't want to have them control what I can and can't see. I want to be able to I want them to take it out of there, and I want to be able to put it in my hand myself. All of you have held an ID at some point in your life. If nobody else's, if this is the first day that you've ever been a server, you've at least held your own ID at some point. You know what it should feel like. You know what its texture is. You know what it should bend like. It doesn't, it shouldn't be flimsy in your hand. You know about the width of it. If something doesn't feel right to you, there's probably a reason for it. And you may not be able to necessarily put your finger on it right away, but generally your gut feelings aren't wrong. I'm going to run over it, not just with my eyes, but I'm going to run over it with my hand too, or my fingertips, I should say. An ID shouldn't have raises, shouldn't have cuts in it, shouldn't have any imperfections. An imperfection generally means that somebody messed with it somewhere in there. So it should be smooth to the touch. And once we've done that, once we're okay that it's okay, we're going to go a little farther. So, a couple things, and I'm going to go down these one by one. The picture. Does the person sitting in front of you, does the person standing in front of you, does it look like the person that's actually on the ID? Now, I will grant you some people change their appearance at times. Some people gain weight, some people lose weight, some people cut their hair, some people dye their hair. Everybody can look a little different at times, but is this the same person? And I'm going to get into that a little bit farther as far as on the next couple slides. I'm going to get into a little bit as far as head shapes and relationships of eyes to nose and things like that, because that's something that'll never change on you, no matter what. There's a couple dates that I want you to look at. The first one is a birth date. Every one of you, when you come to work every single day, should know the date that it has to occur before in order to serve somebody today. Make sense? If I wanted to buy a drink today, when would I have had to have been born?
On or before this date in 94.
Okay. 94. June the 4th of 94. I would have had to have been born before that. So you got to know that right off the bat. And everything that you look at is either going to occur before or after that. If it's before, we're okay. If it's after, not so much. Expiration date on the ID. ID, as far as I'm concerned, is not an ID. If that is expired, I'm not taking that as a valid form of ID. They should have gone and they should have gotten another ID at some point. Physical description of that person. Some states do this, some states don't. The state of Maryland does, where they put a height and weight on there. Again, I said it before, listen, some people change their physical shape. They gain weight, they lose weight. Are they still the same height that they should be? They still generally the same weight. And then there's some security features. The one thing that I don't do in this class is I'm not going to go state by state, and I'm not going to take you through every single hologram and every single ghost image and every single security feature that's built into every one. Just because we won't be able to, I will get to you. We won't be able to cover them all, and I won't be able to actually keep that information in you, especially keeping this to an hour in length. Every one of you should have an ID book at your hostess stand or at your, just somewhere in your business. Here's my suggestion to you. If somebody came to me and gave me like an Idaho driver's license, something that I don't see on a regular basis, I'm probably thinking to myself, hey, I wonder if this is really an Idaho driver's license. And I'm going to look at that book and I'm going to say, does this look the same? And then it'll list out the security features. It should have this, 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 this. And I'm going to go one by one and I'm going to look for this, 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 this. Things like Maryland IDs, you see them pretty regularly. Things like Delaware, Pennsylvania, you probably see them on a daily basis. But something that is just odd or something that is very uncommon to you, that's what the book becomes handy for. Did that cover your question? Okay.
I don't know if you have that at work, so I still really like that one.
Okay.
So we might have.
Okay. We don't by chance have a box of them, do we? Okay. So I would certainly give them to you if I had them. This kind of goes back to picture. This kind of goes back to, is this person the person that's in front of you? Now listen, I am aware that it occurs, that somebody that is under 21 has like an older brother, has an older cousin, somebody that looks like them in their family. And then what happens is they pass the ID down. I get that. But you're not allowed to use that and pass that off as you. That in and of itself is a crime. That is in itself a fake. So what I want you to look for is I want you to look at this, listen, the shape of someone's head, the person standing in front of you, versus what you see on the ID. As you gain weight, as you lose weight, these things do not change. It does not change the shape of your head. You just might have more or less meat on your face. Best way to put it. I'm not going to all of a sudden, have a round face, lose 20 pounds, and then have a square face. That just doesn't happen. So if the person that you're talking to has square, but you're looking at a picture of a round person, that is your first clue that you're probably not talking to the person that's actually on that ID. Second part. I kind of said this a little bit before, that, listen, the characteristics on my face aren't going to change. Where my eyes are in relation to where my nose is, where my mouth is in relation to where my ears are. These things don't change. They're always going to be in the same relation. This is what you start to look at. You start to look where these things actually lay out on the face. And then what you're actually going to do with that is not physically draw lines, but you can kind of see, if you just look at somebody, where their eyes are. Where are their eyes to the top of their ear? Where is their mouth to the bottom of their ear? Just relations. Again, that stuff doesn't change. This is the kind of stuff that be able to pick up if somebody is using someone else's ID. The next part that I'm going to talk about is the kinds of IDs that you should take and the kinds of IDs that you should accept as valid forms of ID. What I put up here is pictures of a Maryland driver's license and a Maryland ID card. There's a lot of different states. What I want you to understand is, I want you to take, the first two types are either a state-issued driver's license or a state-issued ID card, issued by any state in this country, but it had to be issued by one of them. Don't accept foreign ID or foreign driver's licenses for alcohol purposes. We will cover them another way. Don't take foreign driver's licenses. But so the first two, state-issued driver's license, state-issued ID cards. You see the bottom one, it has a little question mark to it. We actually talked about it briefly before a lot of people got here. Many businesses in this town have made a rule, made a determination that, listen, we are not going to take a vertical driver's license. And what a vertical driver's license is most states in this country, when you are under 21, will issue you an ID that goes up and down. When you turn 21, they will issue an ID that goes horizontal. It'll go left to right. There are states, Pennsylvania to me is the one that I always encounter and the one that always kind of rings to me, because a vertical driver's license, even when you turn 21, is still good for 3 to 5 years. It's good for a while. The way that my Maryland license worked is, as I'm 20 years old, as I'm about to turn 21, I'm getting stuff from the MVA, and I want to say that my license expired right around my 21st birthday. It may have given me like a 30-day grace period or a 60-day grace period, but it forces you back into the MVA to actually get you a horizontal driver's license. For my purpose, for police purposes, I'll accept a vertical ID, so long as it's not expired, so long as everything else is in order. I'll accept a vertical ID. Every business can make their own rule. If it's just easier to say, listen, don't ever take a vertical ID, perfectly okay. You can certainly make your rules. You can certainly, every single one of you comes from a private establishment. Every single one of you can make rules as to who gets alcohol and who doesn't. But for police purposes, still a vertical ID would be a valid ID. The next part, the next type of ID that I would take for alcohol purposes would be an active duty military ID card. This is a card of a person that is actually in the military. And the reason I say it like that is I'm not taking a military ID card from a dependent. I'll explain. If I'm in the military and I've got a family, my wife, my kids, they would all have dependent military ID cards. I'm not going to take their ID cards for alcohol purposes. They all have a permanent address. They should all have driver's licenses or ID cards from whatever state home is for them. The reason you take military IDs, the reason you take it for active duty people is because of the nature of what the military does. You bounce around a lot. Maybe you're between driver's licenses, maybe that's expired. That's why you take the active duty military ID card. Now there's a couple that are still in circulation. At the bottom, the one that kind of goes horizontally, it didn't come out in the picture, but it's like dark green and beige in color, and the date of birth is actually on the back. What they went to a couple years ago, and what I see much more often now, is the vertical, the one that's kind of behind it, the second one and the third one up. They are white in color. The date of birth is towards the bottom. Active duty military. So there's 3 so far. IDs that we'll take. State issued ID, state issued driver's license, active duty military ID. The last one. I told you that while we won't take foreign driver's licenses, we won't take foreign ID cards, there is a way for all the visitors that come over and work in the town in the summertime. There is a way that they can get alcohol, and what they can do is they can present their passport, they can present their visa, and you can certainly take that. What I wouldn't take, what I put up here as examples are a U.S. passport and a U.S. visa. I would not take those if I were you. And the reason I say that is, if somebody has a U.S. passport and a U.S. visa, you are on U.S. soil. They should have something else. This is a purpose for traveling. So we're going to take someone's passport, we're going to take someone's visa because they're visiting this country for the summer or for however long they're here. Does that make sense? Okay. I told you before about security features. These are security features that are going to appear on every driver's license. What I'm not doing, and I'm telling you this right up front, is every single state makes different security features where they put different holograms or they put different 3D images, things like that. I'm not going to take you through every single one of those. But just know that there are security features on every single ID, and if you have questions about what should be there and what should you see, that's when you use that book as a reference, and you say, all right, I know that it should have these 3 things. If it doesn't have these 3 things, then it's absolutely not a good ID. Some of those are overlapping features. Some of them are ghost images, UV images. Like I said, there's a lot of different things, and they're all spelled out each and every way in that book as far as what should match, as far as what you should be seeing in front of you. Here's the one thing that I'm going to ask of you. If you get something that you think is a fraudulent ID, you get something that you think is not right. Maybe the person admits to it. Maybe the person says, you're right, I'm sorry, can I have my ID back? Whatever it is. You're under no obligation to actually confiscate IDs, anything like that. We don't really want you doing that. Someone has a message. Some businesses do confiscate IDs. We're okay with it. The one thing that I really need you to know is if you ever get, I'm talking about passports and I'm talking about visas, if you get either somebody using someone else's passport as themselves, or you get a fraudulently made passport or visa, you have to call us immediately. It has to be turned over to essentially an agent of the federal government. I'm only talking about passports. I'm only talking about visas. I'm not talking about a fake Pennsylvania driver's license. We will turn that over to our Homeland Security, and they will certainly get involved in that. That's the one thing that I need you to understand, that anytime that you get either somebody using someone else's passport or one that's actually fraudulently made, you need to call us immediately and turn it over to us. What you will see far more often is I can't find my passport, so I use my roommates or something like that. There's not a lot that are out there that are actually fraudulently made. So now that we've kind of scanned over the ID, now that we've kind of gone over some dates, now that we've kind of figured out, all right, is this the right person? And are we going to continue with this sale? Am I comfortable with this? There are going to be a couple times where you have some questions. There are going to be some times where you think, hey, listen, I'm not comfortable with this. I need to go a little farther. This is going to come down into interpersonal communication skills. Are you able to talk to people? Are you able to get them to tell you things that maybe they don't want to tell you? And you can start asking questions. I'm probably not going to ask any question that actually appears on that ID, because if I'm going to use somebody else's ID, I've probably memorized everything that's on there. So I'm going to ask them something that's not on there. The one that I like, especially if I'm trying to figure out somebody's ID, is I like asking about zodiac signs. I like asking people about, hey, can you tell me what your zodiac sign is? Because most people know what theirs is, but not a lot of people know the actual, like, half a month to half a month, and it corresponds to Taurus. So it's more about watching that person answer the question, not necessarily will they get the right answer. And what I mean by that is, if I ask somebody, hey, listen, what's your zodiac sign? And they go, Pisces. Do you believe that? I don't believe that. Again, it's not necessarily the answer, it's more how they go about answering the question. Something that you should know immediately. If you want another one to go by, it would be, hey, when did you graduate high school? Because that's something every one of you knows off the top of your head. Especially if we're talking about somebody that is 21. Should have happened 3 years ago. If they don't know, or if they do the same thing where they look around and they're trying to figure it out in their head and you actually watch smoke coming out of their ears, probably not telling you the truth. You can ask for a second form of ID. That's certainly okay. I'm telling you that generally, because you handle IDs, this is something that you're used to doing. When you look at something, and it's happened to me before, that I'll look at it and I'll say, I can't tell you what, something's wrong. And it took maybe giving it to somebody else and then comparing it to a book until we finally say, oh, well, whoever made this ID, they didn't use the colors right. And that's what looked wrong to me. I'm telling you guys that you have good instincts, and I'm telling you, trust your instincts. You may not be able to figure out exactly what makes that not a good ID or something wrong about that. There is nothing wrong with asking somebody else. There is nothing wrong with passing this information along to somebody else and just say, can you give me your thoughts? Can you tell me what you think? And again, you have an absolute right to say no. You have an absolute right to say, listen, I'm not comfortable with your identity. I'm not going to go through this alcohol sale. Now, I understand how hard that actually is. I understand what I'm telling you is actually a very difficult thing to say. It's a lot easier for me to say that because I'm not in the customer service industry. Not. Generally, when I get called and when I have to do something, it does not everybody's going to walk away with an interaction from me and be happy about it. Nature of the work, I guess. I know that in the customer service industry, certainly, you want to serve people, you want to get them what they want. It's largely based in tips. You certainly want to get a good tip for the meal, for the drink, things like that. I just want you to know, listen, it is your absolute right to just turn them down and just say, look, I'm not comfortable with this. After you've gone through everything else that you've gone through, if you're still not comfortable, just say no. So there are some fake IDs. I will go over some of those. The first one is an altered ID. An altered ID is when somebody takes, it's a real ID issued by a state, issued by somebody, and they do something to it, usually to mess either with the date of birth or with the picture. That's why we run our fingers over top of the ID when we first get it. Because if you're feeling imperfections, if the picture is raised off of what you're looking at, somebody's laid a picture on top of whatever's supposed to be there. If you feel holes or if you feel gaps around the date of birth, it's because somebody has taken something and actually poked through it to try to change something, or they've tried to distort it, they've tried to manipulate it in somehow. This is not nearly as prevalent as it once was because of the amount of security features that every state does. Now, I'm not saying that they're not out there, but I'm saying this is why we go through the methods that we do on every single ID in order to catch that kind of stuff. Sorry. Manufactured. What you see up here is a picture from the movie Vegas Vacation, when the oldest boy gets his ID made when they're in Las Vegas. It's holding the ID up, taking a picture, and then they actually can print that. The best way that I can say right now, I know that ID Chief doesn't exist right now. There are some IDs that are probably still out there, but there is going to be another company probably at some point that is making as good of IDs. And the problem, for those of you that don't know what ID Chief is you could buy 2 driver's licenses for $200, and if all you ever did was just scan them, and you never actually did any interrogation, if you never actually interacted with somebody, they are going to pass. That ID is going to pass through a scanner. But if you have some interpersonal skills and you actually interview people as you get them, that's the kind of stuff that I want you to be kind of walk away from this with. That, look, I'm going to go through this every time I look at an ID. I'm not going to just run it through a scanner and just trust that scanner. The real ID, the real fake ID, it's me having a little brother and me giving my driver's license to my little brother so that he can get in a bar, and then me going and getting a duplicate driver's license made. Both of which are certainly valid, but my little brother can't take an ID and pass it off as himself. That's where you come in. That's where you come in and you tell him no. Compliance checks. We do compliance checks on a regular basis. We started already this year. We started in March, and we do them at least monthly. We probably do them a couple times a month, and we'll do that throughout the summer into the fall. I need you to understand something, and I need you to pass this back to, certainly your management. We don't do this to try to catch you. We're not trying to deceive you in any way. All we want to know is that when somebody orders a drink, that you are verifying that they should have a drink. And listen, if somebody came into your business, presented a Maryland ID card that was vertical, that said that they were 19 years old, would you serve them a drink? That is a scenario. We're not using fake IDs not trying to deceive you. We just want to make sure that you are, when somebody orders a drink, that you are taking an ID, you are looking at that, verify that that person should actually be able to have alcohol before you make that sale. If you do that each and every time, no problems. You will have absolutely no problems.
If we do it, when we pass, we get like $100 bonus or something?
Not from us.
Or
And honestly, if you,
some person goes in the bathroom and then somebody orders 2 drinks and the person in the bathroom's underage. Then down in Florida when I worked, that's what they would do. They would go a cop, like they would.
I'm telling you, I'm being very upfront to say, listen, we are not trying to deceive you. We are not wearing elaborate costumes. We are not getting fake IDs made. This is right. This is that we, like I said, we're going to present real IDs. And what it has been in the past is it's one of our employees who happens to be underage that uses their real ID to go in. Either that person doesn't get carded, or they look at it and they just don't look at the date of birth. There are additional training classes that are available. This is a basic ID class. If you want more, if you want to take this back to your establishments and you want to tell them, listen, there are more in-depth classes, both of which cost some money. The first one is a TAM class, Techniques of Alcohol Management. There's Charlene's name, Charlene's phone number. She also works at the Purple Moose down on the boardwalk. The second one, Card 101. Eric worked for many years in the bar industry down here as a bouncer, as a security person. He has formed his own company that does that, teaches about IDing, and it goes pretty in depth into those things. So what I'm doing is, look, if you feel like you want a little bit more, if you feel like other people in your business would benefit from that, here are their names, here are their phone numbers, feel free to contact them. Listen, the last part of this, I'm going to talk a little bit about crime prevention. I'm going to talk a little bit about Homeland Security. I told you before, listen, Ocean City is a resort community. A lot of people come here. What that also makes us is, we'll say, a low-level terrorist target. Because we are a very small area that packs a lot of people in, and we have a lot of high-profile events that come through this town. So the reason that I tell you about all this stuff is because I want you to be vigilant. I want you may see things before the police officers do. When you see those things, we want you to call. This is a relatively transient community, and in the fact that some communities will have people that live there on a year-round basis, we do have a year-round population here, but it's very small compared to what our summertime population is. Most places in this town turn over every Saturday, and we have a new group of people for a week. So you understand what normal is. You understand what, and what I mean by that is, I come to work at this time. This is what should happen next. This is what should happen next. I should see this out here. I should see this here. When something doesn't feel quite right, something doesn't seem quite right, you see something that you feel is out of the ordinary, that's what we want you to be a little more vigilant about. And you can certainly contact us. The stuff that I'm talking about, people acting funny, people acting suspicious, people leaving packages places. If you see 2 people interact and you kind of walk away from that and you're like, that just looks not right, that's very suspicious to me. Certainly, if you can put that into words, you call us, you put it into your words, and let us go figure it out. Suspicious vehicles as well. There's another question. Yes, I know, me. Very popular.
After you're done with this, I need to get the TAM number again, and also,
okay.
Do we have a different line to call you guys so they're not calling 911?
I'm actually going to give you a phone number. So in this town, a phone number that is faster than 911 is to call directly to our Police Communications Center, and that's 410-723-6602. 410-723-6602. At that point, you'll be talking directly to an Ocean City dispatcher. You tell them where you are, you tell them what you need, and they'll have somebody to you within minutes. The one thing that I will tell you in this town, our response time is very good, and we usually will have somebody to you within 2 or 3 minutes. There's a couple things that I want you to really walk away from this training with. The first one is, who are you going to ID? You're going to ID everybody, you're going to ID everybody under 35, you're going to ID everybody under 30, something. But whatever your rule is, stick to it. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. What types of IDs do you accept? Should be only 4. It's a state-issued driver's license, state-issued ID, active duty military, passport and a visa issued from another country. If you have questions, if you don't like something, there's some follow-up that you should go through. There's some questions that you can ask. There's certainly that you can get somebody else involved. You can get a manager involved. You have backup that's not just you. That's what you do if you have questions about an ID. And what do? If you see something that's a little bit suspicious in your neighborhood, if you see something that's suspicious at your establishment, we want you to contact the police. We want to be the ones that go handle it. We do not want to put you in harm's way. We do not want you ever to go and take action on your own. We want to do it. We just need to know about it. That's where you come in. The only reason that this works, the only reason this has worked for 20 years, the only reason this will continue to work into the future is we need your buy-in. We need you guys to be interested in this. We need you guys to kind of be the first line of defense for us, because we can't be everywhere. And again, we are not the people that anybody buys alcohol from. You are those people. So if you take this information that I've given you back and you're able to pass it along to them, certainly we will give you the links in order to, if anybody wants to sit down and watch this on their own time for whatever reason they were not able to make it here today, they can. That's my contact information. The one thing that I ask is, that is my personal cell that's on there. I work at night. So please, if you call me at 9 o'clock in the morning, I may not get back to you until the late afternoon. But I generally work 5 to 3, Thursday night through Monday night downtown. If anybody has any questions, certainly let me know. The one thing